Good evening, this is James Exum coming to you from my studio in South Austin, Texas. It's August 15th at approximately 9:45 p.m. and this will be my feature presentation for the evening. It's part of my new series on YouTube. The old one was Yoga Philosophy. This one is called uh, The Witness of History. Maybe The Witness to History. I'm not quite sure how I titled it. It doesn't matter. But this particular video will be called the Grand Poobah. Poobah is one of those strange words. You can look it up. It comes from the late 1800s from Gilbert and Sullivan play. And the Poobah was sort of a con man, a con artist, a card sharp, a never-do-well, just a swindler in general. The people of that period that fitted that description more exactly was were notorious people. One of them introduced Tom Thumb, the midget, to the world, and another one you've probably seen the old westerns where he's got the medicine show in a medicine wagon and he's selling snake oil. That's basically what a poobah is. So I could talk about this all afternoon, but you can do your own research on that. So let's go straight to the text of the video, if you don't mind. And here we are, and here we go. A little technical difficulty, but we're about to start.
The Witness to History.
There we go.
Discourse 3. The Grand Poobah. James H. Exum. Austin, Texas. Copyrighted August 15th, 2026. All rights reserved. The phrase is derived from the character Poobah in Gilbert and Sullivan's 1885 comic opera The Mikado, who holds multiple titles and exemplifies bureaucratic self-importance. Internet search. Every town, every office, every club, and every little kingdom has one. He may not wear a crown. He may not sit on a throne. But somehow, everybody knows who he is. He is the fellow with the big title, the bigger chair, and the biggest opinion in the room. Around here, we call him the Grand Poobah. Now, the Grand Poobah is not always a bad man. Sometimes he means well. Sometimes he even does some good. But trouble starts when a title gets taller than the person holding it. Trouble starts when common sense has to ask permission from pride before it can enter the room. The plain people of America have never had much patience for puffed up importance. We respect hard work. We respect honesty. We respect a person who keeps his word, pays his bills, helps his neighbor, and tells the truth even when it costs him something. But we do not bow just because somebody prints a fancy title on a door. The Grand Poobah forgets this. He begins to believe the parade is for him, when most folks only came to see whether anyone remembered how to lead. He thinks leadership means being louder, higher, and harder to question. But real leadership is simpler than that. Real leadership is service. Real leadership listens before it lectures. Real leadership stands in the mud with the people instead of waving from the balcony. There is a lesson here, and it is not complicated. A country, a community, or a family cannot run on titles alone. It runs on trust. It runs on neighbors looking at each other in the eye. It runs on men and women who do the right thing when there is no applause and no microphone. So let the Grand Poobah keep his sash, his badge, his nameplate, and his long redundant speeches. The rest of us have work to do. We have roads to fix, children to raise, bills to pay, meals to cook, and promises to keep. We do not need a Lord high everything else. We need plain dealing, steady hands, open ears, and clean hearts. But there is one place where the Grand Poobah can do more harm than in any town hall, boardroom, clubroom, or courthouse. That place is behind the Resolute Desk. That desk is not just a table with drawers. It is a symbol. It sits in the Oval Office. It has carried the weight of war, peace, grief, hope, and hard decisions. It was given to America as a sign of goodwill, and it has stood through generations as a reminder that the presidency belongs to the people, not to the man who happens to sit there. Now imagine, for a moment, that the Grand Poobah sitting there is not merely proud, not merely loud, and not merely full of himself. Imagine he is corrupt all the way through. Imagine that he sees the office not as a duty, but as a prize. Imagine that he looks at the nation and sees a cash register. Imagine that he looks at the law and sees a fence gate to crash through. Imagine that he looks at public service and sees private gain. That is when the joke stops being funny. A puffed up man in a small room can waste time and annoy people. A puffed up man with the power of the presidency can bend the whole country out of shape. If he is corrupt, he does not simply make bad choices. He teaches others that bad choices are the new way of doing business. He lowers the ceiling of honor and raises the price of truth. The first harm is to trust. Trust is the fence around a free country. It is what lets people accept an election result even when their side loses. It is what lets a farmer believe the rules are the same for him as they are for the banker. It is what lets a young soldier believe the orders came from duty instead of greed. When a corrupt Grand Poobah sits behind that famous desk, trust starts to rot. People begin to wonder whether everything is bought, fixed, traded, hidden, or lied about. The second harm is to the law. In America, the law is supposed to stand taller than any one man. That is the whole idea. No king, no royal blood, no special pass for the powerful. But a corrupt Grand Poobah cannot stand that. He wants the law to protect his friends, punish his enemies, and look the other way when his own hands are dirty. He treats justice like a toolbox. He picks up what helps him and throws away what is not. The third harm is to honest work. When corruption rises to the top, it sends a message down the ladder. It tells the clerk, the contractor, the lobbyist, the judge, the sheriff, and the agency chief that the old rules are for suckers. It says loyalty matters more than competence. It says flattery matters more than truth. It says the quick bribe beats the fair bid. Before long, the whole machine starts to squeak and smoke because too many people are grabbing parts for themselves. The next harm is to ordinary citizens. Corruption is not some fancy word that only matters in marble buildings. It reaches the kitchen table. It shows up when prices rise because the connected few got special treatment. It shows up when disaster helped move slow because someone turned public duty into private theater. It shows up when veterans wait, teachers plead, roads crumble, and families are told to be patient while the well-connected walk straight through the side door. Another harm is to the truth itself. A corrupt man cannot live with the truth because the truth keeps asking questions. So he tries to wear it down. He calls lies jokes. He calls proof a plot. He calls news persons fake, nasty, and pigs. He calls honest witnesses enemies. He tells the people not to believe their eyes, not to trust their ears, and not to remember what he said yesterday. That is not leadership. That is a fog machine. And fog is dangerous in a republic. A free people must be able to see. They must be able to tell right from wrong, public service from private hustle, courage from noise, and patriotism from performance. When every fact becomes a fight and every lie gets dressed up in a flag, the people grow tired. Some give up. Some get angry. Some stop believing that honesty can win at all. That is exactly what corruption wants. There is also harm done to the good name of the country. America is not perfect. It has never been. But it has always held up an idea larger than any one president. The idea is that people can govern themselves, that power can be checked, that leaders can be changed, and that liberty is not the private property of the powerful. When a corrupt Grand Poobah uses the presidency like a personal throne, that idea takes a beating in front of the whole world. Our friends overseas begin to wonder whether America still means what it says. Our enemies begin to grin. They do not need to defeat us with tanks if we are willing to defeat ourselves with lies, greed, and foolish worship of one con man. A corrupt Grand Poobah is not just a domestic problem. He becomes a billboard to the world saying that the American house has cracks in the walls. But the deepest harm may be what corruption does to the spirit of the people. It makes decent citizens feel small. It makes honest public servants feel foolish. It makes young people wonder why they should play fair if the highest office in the land does not. It teaches the weak to fear, the greedy to hurry, and the honest to keep quiet. Those are terrible lessons for any nation to teach its children. Still, we should not pretend the people are helpless. The same common sense that can spot a peacock from a plow horse can also spot a crook behind a big desk. The people may be patient, but they are not blind. They may be busy, but they are not stupid. They know when a man talks too much about himself. They know when every road leads back to his pocket. They know when the public business has become a family store. The cure is not another Grand Poobah with a cleaner hat. The cure is citizenship. It is people paying attention before the damage is done. It is asking plain questions. Who benefits? Who pays? Who is telling the truth? Who is hiding the papers? Who is serving the country? And who is serving himself? These are not fancy questions. They are porch questions, coffee shop questions, barber chair questions, Sunday dinner questions, and they matter. We should also remember that no desk, no office, and no title can make a small man large. The Resolute Desk can carry history, but it cannot create character. The Oval Office can magnify a voice, but it cannot make that voice honest or wise. The presidency can place a man at the center of the world, but it cannot put honor in his heart. If honor is not there when he arrives, power will not supply it. Power will only reveal what was missing. That is why character still counts. It may sound old-fashioned, but old-fashioned is not the same as wrong. A handshake still matters. A promise still matters. A clean record still matters. The willingness to admit error still matters. The courage to put country ahead of ego still matters. We do not need saints in public office, but we do need servants. We do not need perfect people, but we do need people who know they are not above the law. So if the Grand Poobah ever finds himself behind the Resolute Desk, wrapped in corruption and drunk on his own importance, the people must remember who owns the place. Not the man, not the party, not the donors, not the bootlickers standing close enough to earn a favor. The office belongs to the people. The country belongs to the people. The future belongs to the children who will live with the mess or the repair we leave behind. A corrupt Grand Poobah wants citizens to feel tired, divided, and small. He wants them to think nothing can be done. He wants them to believe that all leaders are crooked, all news is fake, and all his lies are the gospel. But that is the greatest lie. A republic does not survive because leaders are always noble. It survives because the people keep calling them back to the line. That line is simple. Do not steal from the people. Do not lie to the people. Do not sell the country for personal gain. Do not turn law into revenge. Do not treat public office like private property. Do not confuse applause with virtue or power with greatness. Any schoolchild can understand it. Any honest worker can live by it. Any president should be held to it. So the warning is plain. Beware the Grand Poobah when he is only vain, but resist him when he is corrupt. Vanity may make a fool of a man. Corruption can make victims of a nation. If he sits behind the Resolute Desk and uses that sacred trust for himself, then every citizen has a duty to speak